Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Langerr at the Mic Live. Yesterday, we did a Habs-Leafs preview with all Habs fans. Tonight, we're going to do it a little bit different because we have a fellow Habs fan here in Mr. Sheldon Wiseberg, but we also have two Leaf fans, well, one of which is kind of a Dallas Stars fan, but also a Leafs fan in Mr. Jonah Acheson and Jacob Bussey from Bussey Banter at the Mic, and Jonah Acheson from the Hot Take Podcast, and Sheldon from Culinary Academy. How's it going, guys?
Going good, man.
Excuse me.
Real
that was
good.
The chicken repeating on me. You know what, Mike? It's been a long time since I've been on the show, and it's always a pleasure to be back.
Hey, it's our pleasure to have you back here, Sheldon, and also thank you, by the way, Jonah, for joining us even after a very long and brutal commute after just missing your train by a second. We appreciate you joining the show today, and of course, Mr. Bussey, how's it going, man? How's the Bussey banter been?
It's been great. I can't wait for Thursday to get another Leaf win video up. We'll talk about that later.
You know what? I'm more excited. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that later. And you know what? We will really get into that. Oh boy, right off the top, we got the shots taken, right? But look, I'm more excited if this game goes to 6 because we have still relatively breaking news from the province of Quebec that if this playoff series were to extend to 6 games, I believe the date is May 28th, where the government of Quebec will loosen restrictions to allow venues for events to be filled to, I think, 10% capacity, which will mean that we will have, if there's a game 6, that's a big if, there will be 2,500 fans at the Bell Center for the Habs and Leafs in game 6. So let me ask you guys right off the top, if it gets there, how will fans in the stands potentially affect this series for one game, even if it's one game?
Ooh, if it's one game, I don't really know how much. But man, it's going to be so cool. If I'm actually now that you say that this is happening, I kind of hope it goes 6 games because this is probably the only time we're going to be able to see a Canadian team, at least for the next couple months, get fans into the building. Like if you think about it, here in Ontario, when are we going to have a chance to see a team in person, especially in the stadium? I don't really know. The Edmonton, maybe. I mean, I've heard that Edmonton's nickname, or that Alberta, is nicknamed the Texas of Canada. But even so, I still don't think they'll allow fans right away. Manitoba's been one of the most cautious of them all. So I think it'll have a huge effect, especially if Game 6 does end up happening. I honestly would love to see it, really. As a Leafs fan, I really kind of hope it doesn't go that far. But as a hockey fan, it would be really cool to see.
Yeah, it would definitely be good to see the fans really hype up their home team. And like Jonah said, I don't really want it to see 6, but if it does get to 6, it'll definitely be weird for sure at first, considering there's been absolutely no fans, not even at the end of the season or the beginning of the season. So, and we've seen playoff after playoff that a home team, like fans, can really change the momentum of a game, a period, a power play. So it'll be interesting to see if the Leafs, the Leafs should do okay against Montreal, but they are the Leafs, and they have been known to choke quite a few times in the past few years. So I wouldn't be surprised if it does go to 6, and I wouldn't be surprised if that 6th game is a momentum swinger in Montreal's favor.
So this is one of those intangibles where, in spite of the fact that this would be the same attendance for most Florida Panthers games in regular season.
I love the shots right off the shots, like at us Habs fans at the Florida Panthers. I love it. Keep it going. Yeah, continue, Sheldon.
It's going to be quite the experience. The players will say, "Yeah, we hear them in the stands. We love them." Even the Leafs will say, "Yeah, we love having people in the stands, just as long as you remain socially distanced." And I don't know what the mask policy is. I heard CDC say, yeah, you don't need masks if you're outside. So I don't know about crowd control in front of the Bell Center, but just stay safe out there and have fun.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I want to say that if you're vaccinated, I see no reason why any of these provinces don't allow fans in the stands if they're vaccinated. That's number one. Number two, in Toronto, you can gather hundreds of people at Trinity Bellwoods Park or whatever downtown here in these parks on a summer day where it's 20 degrees, or a spring May Day, nice. Chris, shout out Chris May and Ryan May. But yeah, just we're so comfortable with being okay with hundreds of people gathering in these parks, but we can't play golf and we can't have a soul at playoff games or at any of these regular season games either. So that's also just another, I guess, inconsistency with the laws and the regulations with COVID and whatnot. And we're not going to get into the politics of it because this isn't a politics podcast. None of us are here for politics. We're here for sports. So from a hockey standpoint, historically, home ice advantage in hockey compared to the NBA, MLB, and NFL means absolute jack. Nothing historically. But this year, with having no fans for an entire season, or relatively no fans for an entire season up until May or April, I'm talking like league-wide, right? Because the teams in the States, like the Rangers, the Panthers, Lightning, et cetera, only started allowing fans about a month ago. So now to add a playoff atmosphere to that, it will make a difference. Even if it's 2,500 people, and whether it's the fans motivating the players or just the players essentially saying like, we're going to win for the fans, even if they're not making a lot of noise because there are only 2,500 people in a venue that holds 21,000 or what is that? No, is it now? It used to be 21,273. I think it's like 21,256, whatever it is, or anyway, or 300, whatever. Yeah.
Whatever the case.
Yeah. Regardless. They're going to rally and want to win that much more in front of the fans that they're playing for. So even if it's just for one game, but the series has to make it there. And for the series to make it to 6 games, the Montreal Canadiens, they have to play their best players. And what was big news, or much to the disappointment of a lot of Habs fans today, both Cole Caulfield and Jesperi Kotkaniemi were on the 5th line and were announced to that they will not be active in the lineup in Game 1. So as Habs fans, maybe not so much Sheldon and myself here, but a lot of people on Twitter are just like, as like Habs fans are just like almost rooting for the Leafs to win because of this. Just not saying, again, Sheldon and I are not in that category. I think you are, Sheldon, and I'm not, at least right now, but I can understand why. And I want to ask you guys, as Leaf fans, how do you react to your opposition essentially shooting themselves in the foot by not playing their best players?
I feel like this is to bring back a few players that were just recently played in Laval, i.e. Brendan Gallagher. And I don't know what's going on with Philip Deneau. I don't know if he's going to be back in time. But I don't know why you don't keep these young kids in. How are they going to get playoff experience if they're not playing in the playoffs? Like, I don't want to say Montreal's kind of on the decline, but they're kind of like in a weird spot where they can be a playoff team, but they've been known to like start really well and kind of fizzle out at the end. So they really need these young guys to develop when they have the chance to. And Carey Price's prime is kind of on the back end, in my opinion. I think they need to play. And I think putting them on the 5th line and Deschamps they're not playing them is just the wrong decision. And, all it takes is one injury, one block shot against Gallagher, and there could be him. And, Carey Price has been injury prone. So it'll be interesting to see if they can actually make a big difference compared to what the younger guys could have done.
Yeah, I'll say my reaction as a Leafs fan is celebrating.
Yeah.
To not see Cole Caulfield in that Game 1 lineup, I'm looking at it like, yes, he's only got a few games of experience, but the guy is an electric scorer. It's kind of like I relate Caulfield a little bit to an older version of what Cole Perfetti will be for the Jets. I don't really understand why the Jets haven't put Perfetti in yet, to be completely honest, but there's the option. And with the Habs, after seeing Caulfield and what he can do a lot, man. And he might be young, but I'm not necessarily sure the hard-to-play line that Montreal has put together of, I believe it was Eric Stahl, Corey Perry, and Josh Anderson. I don't know how that'll play against the Leafs' speed. So having a guy like Caulfield who's a speedster will be huge, and they're just not playing him. And as far as Kotkaniemi's concerned, I know he's struggled. He doesn't deserve to be taken out of the lineup. It's just Montreal is kind of, and I don't know how I'm saying it, they're pretty deep on at least decent forwards, right? Like they have enough there that they can challenge.
I feel like it's such a small sample size to take from him. Like he only played like 7 games max, not even. And
Caulfield, he played about 12 games.
I played 12 games. So
yeah, it was about a good 10 or so games that
Caulfield in 56 games, and his first 2 goals were overtime winners. And he was pretty good at the end of the stretch there. It's hard to say. It's hard to justify him being pulled because at the very end of the season, like it's such a small sample size to say, he's not going to pan out in the playoffs. So what if he does? And you'll never know. And I think what will happen is if someone on the 4th line, someone on the 3rd line, like you said, that Perry line, if someone there doesn't play very well, I can see Caulfield very well coming up and playing there.
Well, to me, there's also like the X factor, or just one of the, there's so many players in the Habs lineup that if they play like they're capable of playing, like if they play at their best, then the Habs will play really, really well in the series. Maybe not win the series, but this will go to 7, 100%. But if guys A, B, C, D play really, really well, I'm looking at Yoel Armia is a guy that who knows if he's going to be really good Yoel Armia or really bad Yoel Armia. Is Shea Weber going to be a defensive liability that he was this season, or is he going to be that man mountain that actually moves and hits people that he was in the bubble last year? Is Carey Price, to your point before there, Bussey, is Carey Price going to be Carey Price from the bubble last year, or is he going to be Carey Price that's banged up and inconsistent and just not in the best place mentally? Goaltending, though, I wouldn't worry too much because between the 4 goalies that are likely going to be involved in this series, between Price, Allen, even on your end, Campbell and Josh Anderson. I said Craig Anderson yesterday, but Freddie Anderson, right? Those 4 goalies, like if one of them falters, you can easily replace them with Allen or Campbell or Anderson on the other side and be okay, right? Goaltending, to me, like none of these goalies are going to be bad enough to lose their team the series unless obviously the coaches keep them in and let them get lit up, which I'd like to think between Sheldon Keefe and Dominique Ducharme, they're not dumb enough to let that happen. But to me, again, it comes down to so many players on the Habs in the Habs lineup that are capable of what can they do or what can't they do, or they could be really, really good or just not good at all, right? You don't know what you're going to get from them. So where does this come in terms of Caulfield now? Well, who would you rather put more investment into succeeding in these playoffs as the Montreal Canadiens? A guy that you drafted in the 3rd overall, Kotkaniemi, and a guy that you drafted in the top 15 or 17, whatever, I think it was, 15 with Cole Caulfield? Or would you rather put your faith in guys that you acquired for nothing as a rental in Eric Stahl and a guy who's a UFA at the end of the year in Yoel Armia?
Yeah, Yoel Armia, to me, like, he's good. I don't think he's top 6 good. I don't think he's playing in the right spot in that lineup if he's even playing at all. He's a great extra. Like, as a Leafs fan, I'd love to have Yoel Armia as an extra forward or a 4th line guy. He's not a top 6 guy, and Caulfield and Kotkaniemi both are, despite their struggles. So that's kind of how I would look at it, especially like you said with the draft position. For Montreal, you'd much rather see Kotkaniemi and Caulfield succeed than have Yoel Armia on your 2nd line for the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And you talk about, Jonah, you talk about the young guys wanting to succeed. It gives the hope to Montreal. Maybe they won't be good for 2 or 3 years. Like the Leafs weren't good for a while until Matthews developed into who he was. So who knows, Caulfield could be a Leaf killer like Ryan Miller was so many years ago. You just don't know if you don't play him. And you got to play him, and he needs the playoff experience right now so that he can be good in 5 years.
So let me ask you guys, as Leaf fans now, because the Canadiens have never really been bad enough for long enough to be able to get guys like Matthews and Marner in the top 5. I mean, they've gotten Kotkaniemi and Galchenyuk as top 3 draft picks, but Galchenyuk and Kotkaniemi didn't end up being guys like Marner, Matthews, and whatever. But now let me ask you guys, as Leaf fans, were there ever moments where and again, I'm empathizing with Habs fans that just feel like they're indifferent going into the series. Have there ever been moments as Leaf fans with the last 50 years of not winning anything, of not being past the first round since 2004, and it's all going to come firing back at me when the Leafs beat the Habs, okay? But has there ever been moments where you just felt like indifferent because you feel like the Leafs haven't been doing everything that they can to win hockey games?
2018 Game 7, Leafs were leading 4-3 in the third. They had a chance to close it out, and had they played to the best of their ability, I mean, I can go back to 2013, but that's just another heartbreak I don't want to get into. But
wait, I'm just sorry, Bussey. Sorry to cut you off, but was that a matter of the Leafs just not doing what they can to win, or of just them sucking?
No, they had everything they could, and like you can even go back to 2019. They're up 3-2 in the series. They have the keys to win. They've had the keys for a few years now. They just haven't been playing to their full potential. That's why I keep saying this team, the team they have right now, ready to play Montreal on Thursday, is the best team they've had in 5 years. They've got the defense fixed. Campbell looks unstoppable. And Matthews, obviously, first rocket Richard in Leafs history. Like, this is the year the Leafs got to get it done. And if they have trouble against Montreal, it shows that maybe something bigger, as in a blow-up, is coming in the offseason. So it's for me, it's cup or bust this season, and this is the team that has every opportunity to do so if they play to the best of their ability.
Yeah, Bussey, I'll go off one thing you said there. Say this is the best Leafs team in 5 years. How about the best Leafs team in 50 years? And I'll get some snide comments from certain members of Toronto fan base and media and whoever the case. This is the best team I've ever seen in my life. The best Leafs team I have ever seen in my lifetime. And that
20 years.
That includes the Sundin teams with Ron Francis and Brian Leetch. All those guys, 2004, you go back to even 99, where they were favored to beat Buffalo and they lost because of Dominic Hasek, basically. It's kind of like this is their year for sure. But one disappointment I do want to harp on, and this is one you said, Mike, that they haven't done the best of their abilities to win. 2007, it was a good year for the Leafs. Great. It wasn't a great year, but it was good enough. They ended up missing the playoffs by 1 point because the New Jersey Devils started Scott Clemenson instead of Martin Brodeur in their final game of the season against the Islanders. The Islanders win. They go on to the playoffs, and the Leafs miss by 1 point.
And they won in a shootout, by the way. I remember watching that game. It was Easter Sunday. It was Easter Sunday. I was watching at my cousin's on my and I remember it was Wade Dubielewicz or something in net for the Islanders.
Yeah, Wade Dubielewicz.
Yeah,
and he played game one.
Bussey's getting PTSD there.
He played game one against the Buffalo Sabres that year. Did not play a game again after that for the Islanders. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
I do want to refer to a comment by my father, Jonathan Langerr. Also a historic first-time opportunity to see the Bell Center not at full capacity for a playoff game. Zing! There's a shot also from earlier in the show. But yeah, of course, if you're tuning in, feel free to leave a comment, and we'll add that to the discussion for sure. But obviously, look, we already started talking a little bit about the Leafs, and we're not just going to, drown in our Habs sorrows here either, or the Leafs sorrows, because we do have a playoff series coming up for the first time since 1979. And I want to ask you guys, with the way Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews have been playing, look, obviously, I don't know why. Maybe it was Mike Babcock that just didn't think it was a good idea to put two of your most talented offensive players on the same line together, and that's why they fired Mike Babcock, or one of the many reasons why they fired Mike Babcock. But let me ask you this now. Who is better suited to play alongside Marner and Matthews? Is it Nick Foligno or is it Zach Hyman?
I think you got to go with Zach Hyman there. I think Zach Hyman brings an intangible to a team that's extremely difficult, and the Leafs really need to re-sign him this offseason. He's gritty. He can score. He goes to the net. He's on the penalty kill. He's on the power play. He can go wherever you need him to go, and he will not complain. He will go to the best of his ability. Nick Foligno is an absolute great addition, and the fourth captain on that team now from another team. He was that veteran depth that the Leafs really needed to put on the second line with Tavares and Nylander. Nylander's game is more like a 100-foot. He'll be good on one side of the ice and maybe not so great on the other. Tavares is gritty, nitty, and Foligno will fight someone just because someone looked at him. Like, that is what the Leafs need. And bringing him in and keeping him on that line to protect Nylander and to work with Tavares is just, that's why I think Hyman deserves to be up there. And Hyman deserves to be up there. He's been playing absolutely outstanding. Even coming back from an injury, he'll be ready for game one. So
fight someone if you looked at him wrong. That's a great way to describe a guy like Nick Foligno, who, by the way, still has some skill. It's not like we're talking about a guy who's just a fist puncher. Or face puncher.
He had like 30 goals or 40 goals one year a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, he was good. He had 60 points in 17-18 when Columbus lost to Washington in the first round, which, by the way, was a series they should have won, but that's for another day. The addition of Foligno makes it a little bit closer, but Zach Hyman over the last 2 years has been on pace for 30 goals in both seasons, which, I mean, I don't know what else you want from a forward who's going to dig in the corners, get every puck you need for your top two best players. It's exactly what you want, and that line is terrifying to play against defensively. So, yeah, I'd say Zach Hyman. Honorable mention to Nick Foligno. I don't think he's going to play a lot of time on that top line. He'll play some decent minutes on the second line, but maybe they'll throw Thornton up there a couple of times. We'll see how it goes, but I think Hyman's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
Although I will say, go ahead,
Mike.
Sheldon. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. I'm going to add something here. I'm not going to throw shade at the Leafs yet. Wait for it.
Okay.
Hyman has had historical chemistry at the NHL level with both Matthews and Marner. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. There was a period of time, right, where Hyman was on the Tavares-Marner line. A couple seasons, right? Yeah. Okay.
That season, Tavares scored 47 goals.
Yeah, that's scary. So that supports my point where the fact that Hyman and Matthews and Marner all have chemistry with each other makes Hyman the right left winger for that line. I don't know about you, but hey, maybe Foligno can play with Tavares and Nylander. If I was the coach, I mean, Keith and I do share the same first name, so if I was coach of the Leafs, forbid that happen, that would be my decision.
I will say, though, to count, it's scary that the Leafs, Tavares scored 47 goals a couple years ago and that Matthews scored 40 whatever in 50 whatever games this year. But if the Habs could get a favorable matchup with Danault's line, and assuming Danault's healthy, he's been practicing with Tatar and Gallagher, and that's one thing that the Habs could kind of hang their hat on from the center position, is that Philip Danault this year, I saw somewhere that every time he was matched up against the Matthews line, I guess sometimes it was with Byron and Gallagher, or sometimes Byron and Tatar, or Gallagher and Tatar, whatever. Whenever Danault's line was matched up against Matthews' line, the Leafs only outscored the Habs 3-2 this year. Now, they still outscored the Habs 3-2, but that if that's one line, one matchup of a 40 goal scorer in 50 whatever games against a guy who was a Selke nominee a couple of years, or last year, or should have been a Selke nominee last year, right? Well, that's one that you can hang your hat on if you're the Montreal Canadiens. But then also that means that guys like Suzuki, guys like, I hate to say it, but Eric Stahl, because he's in for Kotkaniemi, even Jake Evans, Arturi Lehkonen, and Paul Byron, that means they have to pick up the slack offensively and be able to take advantage of the matchups that they get on the other lines.
Yeah, that combination, shout out to my dad, by the way, who's walking by right now.
Papa Acheson.
I'll say something about Montreal is they're great at shutting guys down. Like, you look at what they did with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl this year. I don't remember exactly how many it was, but I believe it was 2 goals they allowed to those guys. That's phenomenal. That's ridiculous for 2 guys who combined for, I believe it was 191 points or something like that. 2 guys. Ridiculous. Well done by Montreal in every facet of the game. This is where I'm afraid if I'm the Leafs, is if your top guys get shut down, are you going to be able to do the same to Montreal's depth? Because Montreal, give them credit for this, are evenly balanced on all lines as far as scoring goes, except for Tyler Toffoli's line, which, I mean, it's Tyler Toffoli scoring the goals for that line.
Wait, are you saying they're balanced in terms of none of them could score goals, so they're balanced at not no.
No, the opposite. They're balanced at their actual scoring, like they spread it out really well, and it benefits them when they have to shut down a line like that. So it's going to be up to that third and fourth line of Toronto, the grumpy old man line of Simmons, Spezza, and Thornton, of being able to shut down the third or fourth line of Montreal. And that's really where Montreal can make their hay in this series, is those bottom six forwards start scoring, Jeff Petrie plugs in a couple of goals from the blue line, then it's a scary series.
Yeah, it really comes down, if your top two aren't really doing anything, it's coming down to that third and fourth secondary scoring. And then how many from the blue point can you get? Can you get Weber a few bombs on the power play? Because we know Toronto power play. I don't know if Montreal to watch Toronto very much, but their power play is atrocious.
I don't know how. I have no idea how
it's you know what? It's Manny Malhotra. He does the same thing. It's predictable. Once you figure it out, one game, it's so easy to predict. And Montreal and every other team in the division was able to figure it out. And the Leafs have just been atrocious since. The penalty kill is different. It's great. But you have a better chance of – when you have a better chance of scoring on the penalty kill than the power play, there's a problem. And so it's going to come down. I think a big part of this series will be the special teams. I believe that Montreal will score more on the power play, but I believe the Leafs will get a few shorthanded. So it would be interesting to see that secondary scoring.
So two things. So backing up a little bit, first of all, so you guys are worried about Montreal's ability to shut down McDavid and Draisaitl, but there's a huge difference between Draisaitl and McDavid versus Matthews and Tavares, is that McDavid and Draisaitl don't have a Marner and a Nylander to complement them on their lines.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the Habs have had issues with Mitch Marner with Austin Matthews this year. But again, with Philip Deneau's line out there, it's been a little bit more contained. So that's something that the Habs would have to hang their hat on. In terms of special teams, I would say the Canadiens' power play has been streaky this year, because it's either they'll have a stretch of going like 5 for 15, or like maybe not 5 for 15, like 3 for 7, but then go 1 for the next 11, and they just took a guy out of the lineup who, even though he hasn't scored on the power play yet this year, is more than capable of being a guy who can score on the power play. So yeah, I don't know. Again, that's why a lot of Habs fans are frustrated, including myself. But yeah, just in terms of the special teams, though, as like the Leafs, like with all that star power the Leafs have on the power play, they've got to figure it out eventually, you'd think. But that the Habs PK also, I think they're under 80% on the PK. So I would say the Leafs have a bit of a stronger chance at having the better penalty kill than the Habs do.
Yeah, it's a little concerning. One bit about Caulfield, specifically in that game against the Leafs that he played, before he got the overtime winner, he rang a shot right off the crossbar going right by Campbell's head. Mm-hmm. And he showed that offensive prowess so much. Here's a college guy coming into the NHL late in the season. Some parallel to Cale Makar several years ago when he came right out of college and helped Colorado out. Really, how does Ducharme keep a guy out of the lineup with that kind of a release that can give Campbell some concerns, if not nightmares, with it potentially hurting his ear?
For sure.
So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, sorry, just a slight defense. Like to me, the only minute rationalization of taking Caulfield out is that up until a couple of games ago, he wasn't as effective 5-on-5, but he still started scoring and figuring out how to score 5-on-5 because he has 4 goals in the last 7 games. 2 of them were OT winners at 3-on-3, but still 2 of those goals came at 5-on-5. And to me, with Caulfield, it's a matter of like you see him fan on shots or just not get the entire stick behind a one-timer or a backhand shot or something like that. And to me, that's an issue. I've said this plenty of times here in my Langerr at the Mike post-game shows, is that to me, that's an issue of a young player realizing that he has to make his decisions 2, 3, 4, 5 times faster than he's done his entire career. So his mind is either a step ahead of his body or his body's a step ahead of his mind. But you can only fix that by giving him more games at the NHL level and allowing him the chance to snap out of that. And you saw that when he did score that first goal against the Ottawa Senators, it was a good goal scorer's goal, but it wasn't like a snipe, right? He was left open backdoor. He made the right decision to get open backdoor, and Petrie made the perfect pass, and he buried it in essentially in a wide open net, like he should have. Great goal scorer's goal, but not like a beautiful snipe top cheese like that goal on Jack Campbell in overtime, right? So you've seen Caulfield figure things out little by little, but then Dominic Ducharme take him out of the lineup. Boom. I had to hit my microphone there. I don't know if that was as dramatic as I want it to be, but boom, right? Just you got to keep giving this guy the chance, who's one of the few guys that has been scoring goals for you consistently while he's been in the lineup.
Yeah, and he has been phenomenal goal scorer. He's going to be I'll give Caulfield, I think probably he's going to be a 40 goal scorer in the NHL, despite being what a lot of people will consider as undersized. He is that type of goal scorer that we're going to see coming up over the next few years that can be generational. Now, I wanted to go back to your point for a second about that Leafs power play. We were talking about that, and it was bad. That Leafs power play has been bad recently. I think it's 4 goals in their last almost 60 attempts. That's horrible. They were playing with a loaded top unit, and that loaded top unit had the same play every time. Marner gets the puck on the sidewall, tries to pass it across to Matthews for the one-timer. If that's not there, he shoots, hoping for Willie to bang it in. But now I want to read you the power play units as per Daily Faceoff. The first unit is Thornton, Hyman, Matthews with Marner and Rasmus Sandin. So Riley's not on the top unit. And then your second unit is Tavares, Simmons, Spezza with Nylander and Riley kind of hanging around the back end. That's a huge mix-up.
I'm happier with this lineup, to be honest with you.
That sounds way better to me, personally. I don't know about Willie playing at the point. I don't know if that's where he belongs. But in whatever case, I so hope that's going to be better than whatever mess they've been running out for the last 15 games. It seems like it may be, but maybe not. Montreal's penalty killing at some points of the season has looked elite. So it's really going to depend on how each team adjusts to new units and new strategies, if there is even any new strategies. But we'll see as we go along.
Here's my mind with the power play, or here's what I believe with the power play, though. When you have that much talent on the ice, and to give you a clear example, that Braden Point goal set up by Kucherov. Do you think Tampa? Do you think John Cooper, or whoever runs the power play in Tampa, drew that up for? No. Kucherov, you have to do the perfect fake at the perfect time to then make a perfect pass to Braden Point and have Sergei Bobrovsky just completely get fooled by it and like, no, that doesn't get drawn up. So to me, when you have guys that are offensively talented and offensively gifted, it's to put it, I guess, heavily, like they almost have to give the middle finger to the coach sometimes, like not literally because they shouldn't, but they should take it upon themselves. And, you're an extra man out there. You are the guys with the more skill on the ice. Your 5 guys have more skill than the 4 guys on the other side. So take it upon yourself to do something creative, mix it up, take what's given to you, and don't force the same thing over and over and over again.
Well, that first power play unit with Matthews, what used to be the overloaded Tavares, Nylander, Matthews, Marner, Riley, it's give it to Matthews and let him shoot. And every team was able to easily figure that one out. And obviously the Leafs went on that abysmal 0 for 27. So I like mixing it up. And like you said, I completely agree. That Kucherov play, first off, it was an absolutely disgusting pass and a disgusting goal. But if the Leafs want to succeed, you're right, a metaphorical middle finger. Like these guys can, they have brains of their own and they have a lot of talent. So going off the script and scoring a goal on the power play based on your own decision will not affect your relationship with the coach. In fact, it might make it better because it looks like he's actually doing his job properly. Manny Malhotra, although was a great player, his his special teams on the offense and the power play is just awful, and it sucks because the Leafs, like you said, have so much talent on those 2 power plays. So maybe switching it up and putting a more balanced 2-2 will be able to do something better. But other than that, the Leafs really, you're right, they got to use their own brains and they got to make their split time decisions.
I'll say quickly. Quickly, Mike. Just to mention something. It's going to take 10 seconds. Kucherov missed all 56 games of this season. It's talent. That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like there's no way you can I don't know if he was practicing with the Lightning during the season as much, but I mean, you can get into the whole discussion of whether we were talking before off the air about how, with the loophole in the cap situation, LTIR, whatever. But yeah, look, it's talent, it's creativity, and you have to improvise sometimes. And I actually do want to take a comment from one of the OG Langerr at the Mic subscribers here, Roger Delaney. Like your comments, guys. You're really making good points. Question, though, is how well do you think the Leafs handle the pressure or handle the expectations and pressure on them to win?
That's the thing with Montreal. And quickly before you answer, Sheldon, the Habs have no pressure on them. This is we're here to play, bring it on situation for Montreal. Toronto is not only expected to win this series, but expected to win it somewhat handily by a lot of people. So dealing with those expectations is going to be a little bit challenging, I'll say, for Toronto. I hope by now they've learned. You guys have had pressure on you for the last 3 years. You've had pressure on you for the last 3 years. And I know it's not necessarily the pressure of being the favorite. I mean, they were the favorite against Columbus. We all saw how that ended. But I hope by now they've
more
learned.
PTSD from Bussey there.
Keep going.
I hope they've learned. I really have. Sheldon, go ahead.
So I'm going to take a hot take.
Okay.
I do not subscribe to this whole thing of, the favorites have all the pressure and the underdogs have none of it. Especially with the Canadians, because in case you didn't notice, these are the Montreal Canadiens, champions of the most Stanley Cups in the league, with the toughest fan base in the NHL to play in.
I'll give you that one for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't think the players on the Canadiens roster or any underdog roster don't feel pressure? Maybe Vegas in 2017, 2018, but that was a complete anomaly. The players feel it on the roster, and the fans, even though we're concerned, to deny that there are concerns among us Habs fans is to deny facts. But we, deep down, we still want the Canadians to win the series and ultimately the Stanley Cup. This is what makes the fan base so difficult, because the expectations are so high. So depending on how you look at it, objectively, there's pressure on both teams, especially from within with their cores.
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry. Before you go, Bussey, I want to add to that, because you left two poor parts of the equation there. Absolutely, Sheldon, agreed with you, but I'd like to think this is true. But don't you think there's pressure on Dominique Ducharme, who is playing for an NHL coaching job? Don't you think that there's pressure on Marc Bergevin, who's coaching to keep his GM job, right? So from that standpoint, there's pressure. I'd like to think that's true, because the scariest scenario to me is the three-headed monster. My biggest three fears that I mentioned to you again before, Jonah, before the air. Number one is the fact that Dominique Ducharme potentially could get extended. Number two is that, I forget, what was the other one again?
It was Marc Bergevin controlling a lot of the moves.
So it was, number one, Dominique Ducharme might get extended. Number two, Marc Bergevin is the one influencing a lot of Dominique Ducharme's decisions, even though it's not Bergevin's job really to have that much handle on a coach. It's the coach's job to coach the players that he's given. And I think Dominique Ducharme has done a very underwhelming job at that. So, but if Bergevin has influence on that, that's also a problem, because he should not have too much of an influence on how coaches coach their players. And number three is that Joel Bouchard doesn't have a contract anymore. So, yeah. So those are my three. So if the Habs even make this an exciting series and Dominique Ducharme gets extended and Marc Bergevin continues to have Kotkaniemi out of the lineup for guys that he acquires at the deadline for rental picks, right? Or rental acquisitions at the deadline. And if Joel Bouchard is coaching another team next year in the NHL, yeah, it's going to be tough for the Habs fans to deal with that, and look out for another 20 years of, just mediocrity of finishing in 8th place every year and not being bad enough to get a top draft pick, but not being good enough to take the next step and get over that hump.
Well, at least not Buffalo, so that's a positive.
Hey, no one's Buffalo. Only the Cleveland Browns up until last year were Buffalo.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
but
definitely
Mike,
500-mile drive.
It was interesting what you said, how, if Ducharme gets extended, especially with Patrick Waugh in talks of maybe being a potential Montreal coach.
No,
please, no.
Which would be one heck of a reunion.
No. I'm with you guys. He should not be a coach. No.
I will say that if the Habs are going to lose games, that would be one hell of an entertaining way to lose games and become a complete dumpster fire of an organization. But yeah,
you saw what happened in Colorado once Patrick Waugh left. I think it's safe to say he wasn't a good coach.
I mean, yeah.
They traded one player, and all of a sudden, we're a playoff team now. After being one of the most historically bad teams in the history of the NHL.
Patrick Waugh's a Hall of Fame goaltender, but yeah, just unfortunately that fire that he had played with on the ice, it just doesn't. I mean, sometimes they even bode well for him on the ice, but it definitely doesn't bode well for him as a head coach and as an executive.
But yeah, Ducharme is not the future of that franchise as a coach. Like, Keefe will be around and probably get extended for the next 5-6 years, I would assume, especially with the success he's had with Toronto in the regular season. Postseason, that's different. I'll give him a pass. He came in halfway through one season and a pandemic hit. You can't really blame him. You can't really blame anyone on that. When Claude Julien was fired, I was actually extremely surprised. I thought he was a good coach, and I thought him getting fired was completely absurd. It reminds me a lot like Gerard Gallant, who was fired after a 3-game losing streak with Vegas. Now, I'm not saying that Julien went on a 3-game losing streak and they said obviously they didn't like what they saw. But compared to Ducharme, I would much rather have Julien because he's had more experience in the playoffs, and he's a guy who'll fight up, and he probably didn't listen to Bergevin. I'm sure if Julien was here, Caulfield and Kotkaniemi are in the lineup. I would say I think they would be in the lineup.
I wouldn't say that so quickly because Kotkaniemi has not performed amazingly well under Julien. That's why he got sent to Laval last year when he was really struggling. And also keep in mind that Kotkaniemi's success in the playoffs last year was more under Kirk Muller than under Claude Julien, or as much under Kirk Muller as it was under Claude Julien. To me, though, honestly, Ducharme at first, I liked Ducharme at first. I did. From that time where you're playing, they came off, it was the Winnipeg game. Then there was there were 2 Winnipeg games before he got to really get a day off and have a proper practice as a new head coach. And then they beat the Senators, and I think they were much more competitive against the Jets. But all this to say is Ducharme at first was actually not bad. But where things really, really went south with Ducharme, for me at least, was when the Habs started playing 4 games a week. And clearly, they're just these guys. These guys have never played 4 NHL games a week, every single week for 8 weeks straight in their careers. So you can't manage your team. You can't allocate roles or ice time to players as if it's a regular 82-game season where they're playing 3 games a week or whatever it is, 2.5 or 3.5 games a week, or 3, because it makes a difference. So they're playing 4 games a week, and you got guys like Shea Weber. You got guys that are past their primes and guys that aren't in their primes yet, and you're expecting them to be at the top of their game, Weber playing 23, 24 minutes, and Cole Caulfield, not Cole Caulfield at the time, there was Suzuki, Kotkaniemi to be top 2 centermen every single game, 4 games a week. So there was that aspect where he just completely didn't manage the bench properly, didn't manage ice time well enough. And that's where I'm a guy where, honestly, who cares if you have to tell your captain, look, we love you, we love what you do for this team, but just for your sake and for a team's sake, we need you to sit this game out just as a load management type of game. And anyway, they didn't do that. They waited for Weber and Tatar and Gallagher, of course, and of course Drouin, and also I think at one point, obviously Carey Price. They wait for all of them to be out of the lineup for them to finally, and to know, they wait for all of them to be out of the lineup down the stretch, and before they started resting or I guess like shutting guys down for the season. And yeah, so that to me was a really big problem. And also the fact that when Bergevin acquired Eric Staal, Eric Gustafsson, and John Merrill, it's like, okay, you got these guys for nothing. So they're good depth pieces, and best case scenario, there'll be guys. Merrill could be a guy who could step into your top 4. Eric Staal could be a top 2.5 third line center who wins faceoffs, plays well defensively, and chips in a couple of goals, couple of points. Best case or worst case scenario, they don't pan out and they sit in the stands and they step in if guys are injured. But now Dominique Ducharme, or whether it's Dominique Ducharme alone or influenced by Marc Bergevin, decided to play these veteran guys who are A, not playing as well as Kotkaniemi was at the time, and B, not as important to the future of to the present and the future of the Montreal Canadiens. They got played in over other guys like Kotkaniemi, like Jake Evans before, who picked up his play when Eric Staal came in, and guys like also they did not. Ducharme did not manage the bench well. And that is my biggest problem with Ducharme. And now it's gotten to the point where he's ruined Kotkaniemi's confidence. And it's gotten to the point where he's not putting Caulfield in the lineup to start a playoff series when you need guys that can score goals. Come on.
Yeah, that was a great rant, by the way.
Wow.
And before I get to what I want to mention about Montreal's future coach, who I think will take over, I wanted to just say, you literally, as a Stars fan, you just epitomized Dallas's season perfectly. All these great players
Stars, by the way.
out.
Love the Dallas Stars as well.
All these
not as much as you, but yeah, go ahead.
Out. All these great players out. You got Radulov, Bishop. Most of the season you were without Sagan. Klingberg missed time. And then you have Rupe Hintz playing on half of his body. Radek Faksa playing with one wrist. And they're playing 4 games a week from the middle of February to the end of the season. You literally just described it perfectly. Rick Bowness didn't manage it properly. And Bowness is a good coach. Don't get me wrong. He just didn't do the right things. And very clearly, they were hurt all season long. When you go to the Cup final and you're told, oh yeah, 4 months later, yeah, you're not even 4 months later, yeah, you're playing games again. And your best player just got a surgery that left him with a chicken leg, and 3 of your other best forwards are still hurting, you're in a bad spot. But what I did want to mention was Bruce Boudreau. I think he probably ends up as the next coach of the Habs, mostly because he's been kind of lurking in the weeds. I've heard rumors from members of the media who are close to the Habs and to Boudreau's camp that he wants to be there, that he doesn't want to work for NBC or ESPN or whoever. He wants to get back into coaching. And personally, I think other than the fact that he's 0-8 in Game 7s, that's pretty bad. That's terrible.
That's Frederik Andersen numbers.
Yeah, it's bad, but
it's okay. They won't get to Game 7 though. But anyway, yeah. You guys don't have to worry about that.
By the way, I do quickly have a question. Was Kotkaniemi picked before Miro Heiskanen?
No,
was that the same draft year?
No, that was a draft after Heiskanen, I believe.
Okay.
But let me just point out real quick 2 quick things about Boudreau. First of all, je ne pense pas qu'il parle français.
Yeah, he does not. He doesn't speak French.
Alors, ne pas coacher le Canadien de Montréal s'il ne parle pas français.
Ça, c'est un problème à Montréal. Si tu ne peux pas parler français, c'est un grand problème.
Oh, oui. Look, it just is what it is. I'm not saying
who doesn't speak French. I'm with that, but I also understand that if you want the best coach, you're not necessarily going to look at language, which is why I think they should go after Gerard Gallant. Personally,
I would love Gerard Gallant.
It's Montreal, though. It's the fan.
It's just the way it is. It's I'm not saying I agree with it, but after
it's going to be
15 years,
somehow,
somehow,
it's got so bad. It's bad, but it seems like it, doesn't it?
Look, after cheering for this team for 15 years, I've gone back and forth with, why does the coach have to speak French, blah, blah, blah. But at this point, I've just accepted that it is what it is. But the good news is that this could be a time where for the first or maybe the second time in the last 15, 20 years, one of the best coaching candidates happens to speak French, and he happens to be in your organization. So again, another reason why. I mean, technically not now because he's not under contract anymore, but technically he's under contract. But that's why all the more reason, you let Guy Boucher get away when at that time Guy Boucher's style of coaching was very good for hockey in the mid-2000s or the 2010s at the time. Maybe not anymore, but Joel Bouchard is you can't keep Jacques Martin. You can't keep Dominique Ducharme over Joel Bouchard the same way you kept Jacques Martin over Guy Boucher. And so that's. But the other just quick point I want to make about Bruce Boudreau, we don't swear here on Langerr at the mic, but just the thing. My favorite part about Bruce Boudreau is someone made like a remix of the 24/7 Habs or Pens Cap series just F bombs,
Oh no!
And Bruce Boudreau, you gotta go watch that. You gotta go watch that. Like literally 6 clips straight.
That was the thing.
It's literally just Bruce Boudreau going like F this, effing, like 7 F-bombs in a row from his post-game speech. That is my favorite Bruce Boudreau moments, but I do not want a guy not because he doesn't speak French, but that's one of the reasons why he can't coach the Canadiens, but also B, being 0-8 in game 7s and just, not really doing much relevant in the playoffs. That ain't good. So I don't want that guy coaching the Montreal Canadiens.
So I'd just like to point out, Sheldon, go ahead.
This will be my, I forget it's my first or last point about Boudreau, probably the same one. So just to clarify, it's who you want to be coaching the Canadiens, or who
this is who I've heard. This is who I've heard. Okay. I would love Gerard Gallant. Gerard Gallant would be perfect.
I would.
He has the history with the team.
Yeah. I think Gallant's probably either going to end up in Seattle or with the Rangers.
Oh, Seattle would be perfect with it.
Seattle would be unreal.
What he did by the way, Vegas? Yeah.
I'd just like to point out that Vegas, you said it earlier, Vegas fired Gerard Gallant after a 3-game losing streak, and replaced him with noted winner Peter DeBoer.
Don't take away what DeBoer's done with that team, though.
He has been to the Stanley Cup final twice. And in the conference final that he lost in last year, he was outcoached by a guy who had only been coaching as a head coach for 6 months. And literally has been a coach in the league for 5 separate decades. That's not a good look.
Just hyping up his stars.
Anyway, look, I do want to kind of pull the train back on Habs-Leafs here because once again, we do have the first Habs-Leafs series
so far off.
Yeah, look, hey, it was fun. I enjoyed that, but just let's get back a little bit more to Habs-Leafs here. A couple other things I want to get to. Goaltending. We haven't really mentioned goaltending at all.
Yep.
So, we kind of talked already about Carey Price versus Jake Allen, at least on this podcast yesterday, how Carey Price, given that he played with the Laval Rocket yesterday, and he let up his 2 goals on 14 shots, whatever it was. So did Freddie Anderson, 2 goals on 17 shots a couple weeks ago in his rehab stint. And to me, I don't care because it's the AHL and it's literally a bullpen session for these guys. So whatever, who cares? If that happens in game 1, then do something about it. But so on the Habs end, it's got to be Carey Price, and if he falters, have a short leash. You got to go Jake Allen. But for the Leafs end, where are you guys at with Jake Campbell versus Freddie Anderson?
Well, Jack Campbell is starting, so there's a good start.
Jack Campbell.
All good, no worries. I thought, and everyone disagreed with me, I thought Freddie was going to start because A, he's the guy, and B, he has the playoff experience. Obviously not the guy because Jack has taken over this season and just absolutely ran away with it. But here's what I'm going to say. This is going to be a hot take for you guys, especially for you Habs fans. I think if Montreal has even a shot at winning, they have to put Allen in net. I think Price will be the reason this team does not make it past the Leafs. And I don't want to like.
Wait,
Whoa.
Bussey, excuse me. Wait 1 second.
Whoa.
Bussey, weren't you the guy that said you were afraid of Carey Price
I
on
was.
this very podcast a month ago?
And then I
Was that not you?
Play. And then I watched him play, watched him get hurt, watched him get cut out by Michael Hutchinson yesterday. Today.
Because Ryan Poehling and Cole Caulfield and the Laval Rocket are banged up, and they already clinched and just completely locked up the division and just had nothing to play for because there's no playoffs anyway. But yeah, go on.
Completely different issue, I guess. So there you go, nice clap back there. It's good. It's the AHL, not the big leagues. But Price has looked shaky against the Leafs this season. Jake Allen has been solid. Like Montreal should have won most of those. I would even argue that if Jake Allen played every game, they'd split the season series. Like that's how I thought Jake Allen played this season compared to Carey Price. And Jake Allen hasn't been hurt, or at least I don't think so. Carey Price has, and he has a history of being hurt. And all it takes is one pad save, one extra stretch, and that could be it. And I just don't think he's the goalie he was at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, I did say I was afraid of him. But now after watching him and watching kind of like his entire season, I'm not so worried about him anymore.
See, Jake, I very differ from you.
Fair
I'm
enough.
still terrified of Carey Price. Like, I don't care what the numbers say during the regular season. Who do you trust more? Jake Allen, who has his playoff record, I believe, is 8-10. He's not a good playoff goalie. He's not a very good starter. He's a great backup who can play 30 to 40 games a year, maybe win you a couple playoff games, and that's it. Or Carey Price, who has shown repeatedly, including last year in the bubble, that he can carry a team. Carey Price starts game 1. He starts game 2. He starts game 3. Allen probably starts game 4 because it's a back-to-back. Who knows? But Price will start 5, 6, and 7 if there is one. If there is something. I don't really see a situation where the numbers dictate whether or not he's in or out. I'd also like to say Caden Primo, good Lord, the guy has a tough time getting in the net going forward.
Primo will be fine. It's growing pains.
Primo just look, honestly,
I think it's more a contract for Allen that's going to keep him out than anything else.
Primo just needs he needs another year or two in the AHL. And look, honestly, goaltenders, it's just so much. It takes so much mental maturity to be a good number one goaltender in the NHL. Yeah. Like not just physical and talent and technique and all that. It takes so much mental maturity to be able to be a good number one goaltender in the NHL. So honestly, the Habs, they might have rushed Carey Price even because he was like, look what happened to Carter Hart in Philly also, right?
Yeah.
No, boy.
So,
man.
Yeah. So honestly, just give Caden Primo the time he needs. As long as Carey Price and Jake Allen are in front of them, they might not be in front of him for long because of the expansion draft, but that'll be for another show. But as long as Carey Price and Jake Allen are in front of Caden Primo, just be patient with Caden Primo. He'll be just fine.
So Jonah, I know we're Leaf fans, but I want to disagree with you on one thing in the sense of look at last year compared to this year and who has been played better this year. Like last year is completely different than what's going on this year. This is a whole new season, and Jake Allen has proved that he can stand up for his own. Yes, he has a losing record in the playoffs. However, he came to Montreal looking for a fresh start. And I believe, Mike, you said in one of your earlier podcasts, you were very happy to have him as a backup because he's a very credible, as you know, he took St. Louis to the playoffs multiple times in his career. I'm looking at this season and I'm saying Jake Allen, I think should, like you said, Price should be on a short leash because of the way he's played. And I think Allen should be ready to go. All it takes is 1 or 2 bad goals and that's it. Okay.
But I do want to give you this though. It wasn't actually Allen that led them to the playoffs those years that they made it. It was Brian Elliott.
Allen came in for Allen.
Allen started the season and was not good. So they put Elliott in, and he carried them in 16, 17, 18. They were kind of mediocre. Anyways, I think they missed the playoffs that year by 1 point to the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah.
And then they bring Binnington in halfway through the next season because Allen's playing poorly, and Binnington takes him to a cup. Allen's a great backup, don't get me wrong. He plays a phenomenal role as the backup goaltender for whatever team he plays for. He's not a starter. He will not be a starter in his career, I don't think. And just to go to your point about Anderson, I was a little surprised that you thought Anderson would start, mostly because of the start he had in the NHL, because he didn't look comfortable.
Because he was injured.
Campbell is 17-2-2. And I wanted that. This is just a weird stat line that I saw earlier. Campbell's 17 wins is the same amount of games that Kyle Palmieri played for the New York Islanders after his trade there. Campbell's 2 losses in regulation and 2 overtime losses were the same as Palmieri's goals and assists. So think about that for a second. Stupid stat, funny stat. I'm a stat guy in case you couldn't tell.
Oh yeah, Jonah's a stat encyclopedia here.
But Campbell's the guy. Campbell's the guy. It's been proven so far this season. Like, there's no doubt. Freddie's .895 save percentage ain't going to cut it. It's not good enough. And like we were talking about with chokers in Game 7s, that 0-7 record in Game 7s is bad. I don't trust that at all if I'm a Leafs fan, which I am, obviously.
So Jack Campbell starts the series, but do you think he finishes the series?
Yes,
Probably.
I think he does.
Probably.
I think Anderson, if the Leafs are going well, they're up 3. Good Lord, if it happens. If they're up 3-0, they start Freddie Game 4 because it's the second half of a back-to-back.
No. Oh, maybe, yes. But even then, if you have a chance to win the series, you put the guy who's won you 3 games already, so you can move on and give him the rest he deserves.
So, guys, projecting to the offseason, has Freddie Anderson played his last game within the Leafs organization?
Absolutely, and it was against the Ottawa
With the Marlies.
It was against the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
And they lost.
Well,
I think it's the end.
The Sens, they were what? They won 10 out of 14 games down the stretch or something?
Yeah, nothing against the Sens. They played great. It's
Since
just
February 13th, Ottawa was 3rd in the Canadian division.
It's
there
just
you go.
Frederick Anderson is done. He's it. He's either going to go to Seattle or he'll get picked up somewhere. He just will not re-sign with Toronto.
Watch him go back to the Ducks. Watch him go back to the Ducks. That'd be hilarious.
They're going to keep.
That'd be hilarious.
But back to the point is Frederick Anderson has played his final game as a Toronto Maple Leaf, and I don't know where he's going in the offseason.
Okay. Sounds
so
good.
Now, go ahead, Sheldon.
Bussey. Big question. Is the reason why you say that Jake Allen should start the series rather than Carey Price because, after you said you have watched the games again, is it because of Jonah, back me up here because you're the stats guy. Allen has stopped.
And sorry. Actually, Sheldon, you could also answer while you're talking about Allen and these goalies. You got a comment from Randy here. Is Freddie Anderson going to be a Leaf next year? Doubt it. I think you guys pretty much answered it before there, Bussey and Jonah, right? Yeah. That he won't be. Yeah. So there you go.
It's money related and performance related.
Performance.
And health. You could say health also.
And that too. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Sheldon, go for it.
Excuse me, Sheldon. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jonah. Back me up here because you're the stats guy. You watch the games. Is the reason why you think Allen should start is because of the 100% of breakaways that Allen stopped against the Leafs?
Yeah. I mean, that's also a problem, too. And Allen has been known in his career has been known as the shootout stopper. So
the shootout stopper.
If I'm Toronto,
near you,
and obviously the Leafs have screwed up some 2-on-0s, 1-on-0s in this season, which I don't want to really get into, but yeah, that's a big problem, and that's a big concern for me because.
But it's okay because the Habs can't score on breakaways themselves, so it cancels itself out. The Habs, since Thomas Tatar or Jonathan Drouin's goal in January against the Canucks, have not scored on a breakaway since then.
Since what date? Hold up.
Okay, or maybe Kotkaniemi. Excuse me. Kotkaniemi might have scored a goal on Freddie Anderson in February.
Oh, yeah,
an absolute snipe on a breakaway, but that wasn't even really a breakaway. It was like kind of a broken breakaway. So I don't know if you could really count that, but the Habs are like maybe 2 for 282 on breakaways this year.
better than against than no goals against for the Leafs. So
Ooh.
to answer,
go ahead, Bussey. Go ahead.
To answer your question, Sheldon, yes, I'm terrified of that, but that's not the only reason. I've also seen, because Price has been injured, I've seen a lot more, especially with like the Leafs and Habs playing like 3 games at the end of the season when Price wasn't playing. Those 3 games, I was very concerned, except that one game where the Leafs basically dominated that entire game. I'm terrified. Like, you guys could have won 2 games, no problem there. Because of Jake Allen, obviously you needed the scoring to happen, and Jack Campbell decided almost stayed hot. So that is a reason why I would rather see Price, because I believe the Leafs would have a better chance. But if you guys put Allen, I think you'll have a better chance of making it further in that series, getting to the game 6, like we talked about, having that home crowd.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I do want to turn the page here, guys, and get into a little bit of predictions here. So I want each of you guys to give me, number 1, your X factor for the Habs and the Leafs. So who are your X factors? And 2, how do the Habs win? And how do the Leafs win? Let's start with Bussey.
Let's do it. All right. The X factor for, do you want me to do it for both teams or just the one?
Start with both teams. So okay. X factor for both, and the why each team wins for both.
Okay, so Habs, it's going to be the special teams. The power play is going to have to be huge. Shea Weber's going to have to unload a lot of bombs from the line, get it on net. Could look for a rebound. Jack has been known to give up rebounds. His rebound control is good, but he gives up the rebounds in the first place. So look for rebounds from the point. For the Leafs, I would say physicality. You know, the Leafs have always been called a soft team, but they pick guys like Foligno. They pick guys like Simmons for this reason. The battles in the corner are going to be so crucial to this team. Like, you guys watch any hockey game, and how many times is there a battle in the corner and, you know, it leads to a goal? Look at the Tampa game that happened a few days ago. Battle in the corner led to a goal. So if the Leafs are able to stay physical against the Habs, and they're able to, you know, if the fourth lines are able to physically go against each other, then I can see the Leafs, you know, having a much better chance. What was the second part of this question? It was like, why they're going to win?
Yeah. So why are they going to win?
So why the Habs are going to win is if they're able to stay out of the box, because if the Leafs power play gets hot, it gets hot. If whoever's in net can steal a game, because that game could be crucial to a game 6, which will be fans, which I think is another X factor for Montreal. And it's going to be, and I think if Montreal has a chance here, they're going to rely on that fourth line, that stall, the veteran leadership on that team. That's really going to have to come through when playing against a team so deep like the Leafs. Now, why I think the Leafs are going to win is because they have 4 lines of dominance. The third line on the Leafs team could be the first line on Buffalo. The fourth line on our team could be the first line on another team. Pushing first line, maybe second at best. But that's the thing, is the depth on this and the secondary scoring. And, you know, Spezza is looking young as always. Thornton looks like he's got a fire lit in him after that Winnipeg series. And these are guys who you really need to come through. And it's not just an on the ice, it's an off the ice. You need guys who, if you're down 2-0 and you're getting frustrated, you need guys to stand up and be like, listen, it's okay. Sit down, shut up. We're going to go out there. We're going to play 20 minutes. We're going to play hard. We're going to play tough, and we're going to do it because this is what we need to do. These are guys that you can't teach stuff like this. You can't, what Thornton has, what Spezza has, you really can't teach that. So that's why I believe the Leafs are going to win, and that's why I believe Montreal would also win.
Go ahead, Jonah.
Jonah, take it away.
So for X factors, I'd say Montreal's is probably going to be that third line. Perry, Stahl, and Anderson.
Wait, that's the first line in Dominique Ducharme's mind.
Oh, God.
Anyway, yeah, continue.
Well, I'm going off of what Daily Faceoff says.
No, I know. They won't actually. I mean, they might be the first line, God forbid. Yeah. But yeah, continue.
But that line can bring the physicality. I know personally Corey Perry can be scary in the playoffs from literally last year.
He's built
Josh Anderson.
Playoffs, yeah.
Josh Anderson is big and talented sometimes. Depends what night he picks and chooses what night he wants to be good, it seems. And Eric Staal knows how to play. And if they can not just score their way through the series, but shut down, say, Tavares, Nylander, and Foligno, because I don't think they'll be the line on Matthews, Marner, and Hyman, they could be a huge piece to a possible Canadian series victory. For Toronto, it's the power play. It can't be anything else. It sucked so much, and they're still here, that if anything gets going with these new revamped units, I think it's over. The series might be over there. As far as what Montreal has to do, they got to shut down the top line. Find a way somehow to stop Matthews from scoring, stop Marner from dancing his way around the ice without a care in the world, finding guys behind his back through the legs, like whatever he does on every given night. And for the Leafs, it's probably just going to be playing solid defensively, because we've seen in the series against Boston, especially the two series in 18 and 19, they didn't play solid defensively in the games that were important. And in this series, it seems like every game is going to be huge, important game, especially, like you said, with Game 6 in Montreal having fans. No other game is going to have that. So that's kind of like it's really tough, because the Leafs defense, especially that Muzzin Hall pairing, has been good this year. If Riley and Brody can't figure out chemistry-wise what they're going to do during the playoffs against probably Montreal's second line, I don't really see a scenario where the Leafs are still favored to win. They got to shut those guys down.
Mm-hmm. By the way, we have a couple of comments from Dixon Automotive Group, who's a little bit ambitious here. He's saying Montreal in 6. Montreal hit the out of Toronto for the first 2 games, then bring in KK, Romanov, and Goal Caulfield. That's how you beat the Leafs. Hey, if only it were that easy there, Dixon Automotive Group. I hope it's that easy. I really, really do. I don't know if it's going to be that easy, but yeah, that's definitely how Montreal wins in 6 for sure.
You know what? The Hot Take podcast, we've kind of strayed away a little bit from making our hot takes at the beginning of our podcasts, but that would go on there for sure. I'm not going to lie to you. That is fiery hot. Like, we're talking Frank's Red Hot jalapenos. Like, that is fiery. I will say, I trust that he is a Habs fan. I'll give him that. As a Leafs fan,
thank you, by the way,
I'm
Dixon
also
Automotive
biased.
Group. Yeah.
Well,
Dixon Automotive Group is a regular on Langerr at the Mic shows as well. So thank you.
And I am not. So I'll defer to him on that one.
Yeah, go ahead, Sheldon. So your X factors, and why do the Habs win and why do the Leafs win?
Okay. I'll go why the Canadians will win this series. It's actually 2 things simultaneously. The first one, Carey Price. Enough said. Second, because the Canadians are going to be the hitting team this time rather than the fire wagon type of team that plays that brand of hockey, throwing Austin Matthews off his game up here. And I think, Mike, you mentioned this in a show way back earlier this year or late. Yeah, earlier this year. The hitting, the chirping, getting Corey Perry, Josh Anderson, and having Brendan Gallagher play his game is going to get in Matthews' head, if it works, which will make him distract himself a little bit, second guess everything, because if that doesn't happen, I think this is the year that the beast within Austin Matthews is going to break out, and look out the rest of the NHL playoff teams. It's going to be scary, but if he can't put it all together this year, then the Canadians stand the best chance to win. And again, this is assuming that Carey Price can come back to his play that he showed in the bubble, even that he showed in the 2017 series against the Rangers, where he had that crazy save percentage. Even in the 2011 first round series against Boston. That was his second high. That is his second highest save percentage in the league, .934 in the playoffs. As for why the Leafs will win, I got to look at my notes. It's taking advantage of any opportunity because the Leafs have the offensive wizardry to take advantage of them in tighter spaces that other players aren't going to expect. That's the thing with having this 4-headed or 5-headed monster that are these Toronto Maple Leafs since 2018. As well, what did I say in my notes? The X Factor, the opportunities, which will involve taking advantage of a Canadiens penalty kill that may not be prepared, because I'm getting flashbacks to one game where Thornton fed, I think it was Matthews, a pass. That was the game that the Leafs scored 3 goals.
That was where the Leafs got a goal with like 1 second left on 1-5-on-3, and then they scored like 10 seconds later on the 5-on-4.
Yeah,
Petrie thought it was a good idea to like lob it to no one, like in the middle of the ice, and that got turned over. Then he decided to pinch and then missed, and then the Leafs. That was, I think, the player talking about their shot.
And that will involve Carey Price looking like a fool, which I hope not. But I'm in a bit of an emotional state about Price since his game in Laval. So I really hope the beast within Austin Matthews does not wake up and it stays angry within that shell of his body.
Okay, so to me, it's simple. Number one, my X factors for the Leafs is, I think Jonah mentioned it, their defense, because if the Leafs are going to score their goals and Campbell, Freddie Anderson will likely be good enough in net to not be a reason why the Leafs lose. But if the Leafs don't play well defensively, because the biggest change of the Leafs this year compared to Leafs teams of years past has been their ability to defend. Like, they figured out this whole defense thing, maybe. Justin Hall, Jake Muzzin, Morgan Riley, even TJ Brody are probably the best top 4 in the North Division. I don't think there's a better top 4 than that, right? If that plus, I guess you're going to get Rasmus Sandin on the third pairing with Dermott. Yeah. Exactly. So
or Zach Bogosian,
or Zach Bogosian. I mean, either way, if the Leafs have figured out this whole playing defense thing, then the Habs honestly don't really have much of a chance, because they're going to give up goals and they're not going to be able to score goals. Now, so that's the X factor for the Leafs. X factor for the Habs, pretty much the same thing, I would say, but I would put it all in one player, their captain, Shea Weber. Because, and I mentioned this already, if Shea Weber is going to be their man mountain that he was in the bubble last year, well then, good luck, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner. You're going to have to really fight for your time and space. You have to deal with a bunch of hacks and whacks and maybe even some cross checks that Shea Weber can get away with because he's Shea Weber, and that's just the way reffing works sometimes. So if Shea Weber is going to be that type of player playing a top 3 defense role, then that gives the Habs a chance. But if he's going to be a guy that we saw this year where he's just making terrible decisions with the puck, can't skate, chasing Austin Matthews behind the net when he tries to wrap it around, then the Habs don't have a chance with that either. So why the Leafs will win is just very simple, because they have, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Hyman, Foligno, and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera.
Riley.
Simple. Riley. Yeah, sure. Riley, throw whatever. Just they have what they have. The Habs, on the other hand, the Habs will win if they play good defensively, but also if they play their puck possession game and bury their chances. And that also comes largely with if they are healthy and if they are rested from the 7-day break, because the Canadiens with time off, we've seen the Habs this year, pretty much this entire season, what they are when they're broken down, beaten down, kind of like all other teams this year. But I'd say more so the Canadiens, because they've probably had the second most brutal schedule in the NHL after the Canucks and the Dallas Stars, right, Jonah? So that's why
I'll go with
the Habs. As the Habs is a rested, healthy, they're going to be probably as rested and healthy as they've been probably since March. Probably since February, but probably since that COVID break, right? So that's their best chance to win. Is that translating to their ability to play their puck possession game and bury their chances offensively? Now, last but not least, we've been at this for an hour and 20 minutes, guys. Way to go with no commercial breaks or anything. But let's get right to our predictions for this first Habs-Leafs series since 1979. Same order. Let's start with Bussey. Predictions for this Habs-Leafs series.
I believe that the Habs will get a game in Toronto. But I believe Toronto's going to come out and they're going to win the series 4-1.
5 games. All right.
5 games. Yeah.
Yep.
Jonah.
And I said it on my podcast. I've said it with the guys. I've said it. I think I said it on Jacob's show too.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a gentleman's sweep. It's going to be 4-1, just like Bussey's saying. The Habs are going to make it way more interesting. I don't think this is going to be a series that the result of the series will show how competitive it actually was. But I think it's probably going to be a Leafs in 5.
Okay. Before I say my prediction, I don't want to put you guys down, but this actually helps me. This jersey, I'm the only one of us 4 wearing a jersey with the name and number of a guy who last played in a Canadiens Leafs playoff series, because this is a knockoff Guy Lafleur. I don't think the camera can get me showing the number and the name on the back, but wearing this jersey, and after hearing what Guy Lafleur said this week, I mean, I only read the headline, but you know what? Close enough. Hot take, fearless prediction like Pat Hickey or Jack Todd used to say. Canadiens in 6.
Just at Dixon Automotive Group. We got to throw in Dixon Automotive
Exactly,
Group.
yes.
Group into
He and I are together on this.
All right. So this series is going to 7, guys. I say this series is going to go to 7. I say a split in Montreal and a split in Toronto and a split in Montreal, or maybe whatever. It'll be 2-2 through 4 games. Mm-hmm. Then the Leafs will win game 5, but because the series goes back to the Bell Center and they'll have fans, the Habs will rise to the occasion and win in front of their fans. But just the Leafs right now, they're a better team. And even though playoffs, anything could happen, the Leafs are going to take this one in 7. And that's my prediction. That was my prediction yesterday. I'm going to stay consistent with it now. And you know what? Montreal Canadiens, watch this podcast, put this on the bulletin board, use this as bulletin board material, just like you had all the other Sportsnet or TSN, whatever analysts saying, Leafs in 5, Leafs in 4, Leafs in 6, Leafs in 7. Put that all on the bulletin board and go beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. Prove us wrong, Montreal Canadiens.
Use our biased takes to fuel your motivation to win this series.
I'm not biased. I ain't biased.
You're the only one who went no bias.
Bro, yeah, I'm not biased here.
You're the only one who went no bias here.
Yeah.
Jake and I, we fully went biased a little bit here. Oh, for sure.
But yeah, put it on the bulletin board. Use it to motivate yourself that much more.
I'll say you probably went a little biased, but hey, everybody does in this situation.
Hey, so I love the honesty, man.
But yeah, guys. Hey, thank you so much, the 3 of you guys, for joining the show here. This was a lot of fun. This is, I think, a record for the longest show on Langerr at the mic. And to our viewers and to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Also, give a follow to Bussey Banter, right? And Jacob Bussey on Instagram, right? Is Bussey Banter on Instagram?
Just Jacob Bussey, yeah.
Jacob Bussey on Instagram. Jonah Acheson. Find Jonah Acheson, the Hot Take Podcast on Spotify and YouTube also, I think, right?
YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, we're there.
Hot Take Podcast. And Sheldon, you could find him in doing his placement in teaching gym classes, right?
Science class.
Science classes.
Or just follow my advice.
Yes, just listen to what Sheldon has to say, even though he might have been very ambitious with his Habs in 6 prediction.
Oh, absolutely.
We love it. But yeah, as usual, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Also, leave a comment in the comment section. Well, I lost my breath there. Leave a comment in the comment section and just, give your predictions or tell us how right we are, how wrong we are. I don't care. Give a comment in the comment section. Give us a big sub here to Langerr at the mic. Give us a thumbs up on this video. And thank you so much for joining us on this Habs-Leafs Preview Part 2 here on Langerr at the mic. And we look forward to seeing you next time after Game 1. Go Habs, go. And for them, I guess, go Leafs, go. But go Habs, go.
Pour toujours le Canadien.
Go Leafs, go.